14. I'm Madison Quinn, KFGO News.
Thanks for keeping it locked in to 790 AM, 104.7 FM. And, of course, you can watch us worldwide, kfgo.com. Click the Listen Live tab or on YouTube as well. I'm going to get right to our first guest because I know he's a busy guy. His name, Kelly Armstrong, the lone congressman right here in North Dakota. Congressman Armstrong, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, I'm glad to be getting caught up on what in the world's going on when it comes to national politics. And I think there's a lot of people wondering that same thing probably on a regular basis, but you're in the thick of things out there. So I'm curious, what's on the docket for this week? As far as I can see right now, as I look up the monitors, the voting reform situation has kind of hit that crescendo. It's at the top of people's minds. What's the latest on that, Congressman?
Well, the latest on it mostly is right now it's in the Senate. So we had 160 proxy votes for a quorum call yesterday. 2 weeks ago, 13% of the people at the Capitol tested positive for Omicron. So while I give a lot of frustration to how this place works, this sounds really weird after being done for a month, but it's a slow week right now. It's a slow week on the House side. We've only taken 3 votes so far in 2 days, and I think I have 1 committee hearing this week. So part of that is because it is more contagious. It is going on right now, but the other side to that is we have had the implementation in policy for a long time to do these things by Zoom and all of that. And I'm just a little curious why we're not doing more this week.
I was going to say, well, it sounds like you got all afternoon to hang out. We could get all the topics on the table.
Sure. Well, hearings and that stuff is only part of it. You know that. We've got a lot of different meetings and trying to figure some stuff out. So.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to figure out going on, whether that's when it comes to, these proposals. I know the Build Back Better initiative, that one of those things. I'm curious, and I want to get back to the voting rights, but we can push that aside because we had the infrastructure that did pass. I know you were opposed to that because you thought Build Back Better coincided with that. On the Senate side, it seems like that's kind of floundering there. So I'm curious, when it comes to the infrastructure bill, do you still think you voted the right way in opposing that, knowing now that the Build Back Better, I don't think it's going to pass this year, Congressman?
Well, you know what, Tyler? We may be able to make some news here. If they would have told me that in exchange for my vote yes on the infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better bill would fail, I would have changed my vote. I still don't love the infrastructure bill. I think that we have a real inflation problem. I don't think that handles it, but I think the Build Back Better. Now, you also have to apologize to Joel because I promised him I'd go on a show and admit it if that happened, because we got into a pretty good dust up on that while it was going on. But I think it's important to tell people the truth. And if I would have known all of that, I could have guaranteed that I would probably change my vote.
There's no need to apologize to Joel.
In fairness to me, the leader of the House, Speaker Pelosi, sure made them seem like they were part or the same deal the whole time. And it's always the different dynamics between the House and the Senate.
Well, and that's where the Senate, I'm not going to ask about filibuster because you know what? Our opinions don't matter on that. We don't have a vote on how they do that. But right now, that's being on top of news because of this whole voting rights reform. And I know that did go through the House. You've been opposed to that. Explain it to me. Why oppose this voting rights reform, at least out on the Washington side?
Well, first of all, I don't think, and I can give you an answer, and I really believe this. By the way, this is the answer I gave when I voted to seat the electors and took a lot of criticism from my side of the aisle on that. I was state party chairman for 3 years, which handled the political side of elections in North Dakota. And I was on the Judiciary Committee and chaired the Judiciary Committee, which handled the policy side of elections in North Dakota. And the last thing in the world we want to do is nationalize our elections. And I'll just give you one real practical example. Every time these bills come up, I have to go in front of the committee, then I have to go in front of the rules and ask them to accept language so we don't have to implement voter registration in North Dakota. Because they're just fascinated that North Dakota is the only state in the country that doesn't have voter registration. Secondly, they want to get rid of all voter ID laws everywhere in the country, and they want to pay candidates to run for federal office and use taxpayer money to do that. And those reasons alone are reasons to oppose these bills.
So is there anything that could be done? And I ask this because these proposals aren't done in a vacuum, as you're aware. I mean, there's some states that, following this last election, and quite frankly, in my opinion, based on, the lie that has been about the 2020 election results when it comes to the presidency, that you have states trying to implement, I think for the most part, not universally, but for the most part, you have stricter voting laws being discussed. So, I mean, is there anything you could get behind as far as safe rails at the federal level that it doesn't create such a burden for some states' voters to get out there and cast their ballot?
Yeah, I think that fundamentally is the question, and I suppose it depends how you view this. And I view it as there's no real such thing as a federal election. There just isn't. There's 50 state elections that elect federal officers, and you can always try to do some of those things. And to be quite honest, people don't like this answer, but courts are typically better at determining these kind of things in a narrowly tailored way than Congress is, because eventually what ends up happening in Congress is they make sweeping one-size-fits-all changes because it's federal legislation, and how that affects someone in Philadelphia versus how that affects somebody in Rolla is exceptionally different. And here's a good example where most people don't know this. Half of North Dakota's counties are vote by mail. Like I argue all the time when Republicans go after mail-in voting, I don't think we always make the right argument. But the difference is we trust it and we have faith in it in North Dakota because we set it up locally over the course of years and did it versus being mandated down by the federal government. The Electoral Count Act, there's a bipartisan group of senators that are working together to see if there's some things on that, and I guess they're potentially broadening some of those, and to see what comes out of that, we'll take a look at. But I'm just telling you, the two bills that we have, there is just way too many things that would be bad for North Dakota.
When it comes to the last election, one of your neighbors out here, Mike Rollins, spoke the truth when it comes to the results, saying, look, it was a fair election, 2020. The former President Donald Trump is taking issue with that. I mean, quite frankly, he's attacking Rollins for that. I mean, does that prevent some of your colleagues from just being as upfront as far as the legitimacy of the last election, the fear of the former president coming out and scolding them publicly?
Oh, I'm sure it does. And and also at the same time, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle out here never miss an opportunity. I think sometimes miss an opportunity. It's easy to get into your partisan bunkers when you do all of those things. I mean, what I can tell everybody is this, and I just mean this. I've read just about everything that's been filed on 63 cases all across the country in federal and state jurisdiction. And regardless of what your personal beliefs are at any point in time in this, eventually you got to win somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you can't go 0 for 63 and then continue to say it. And I just don't think you can do that. I mean, eventually, sooner or later, the accusations have to be backed up by something that is tangible and move forward. Otherwise, and maybe it's the old defense attorney in me. You win cases, you lose cases. You win elections, you lose elections. You do whatever you have, but you move on and work towards the next one.
Congressman, you got more time for me? Because I got a couple of questions when it comes to beef and poultry. I know the administration put some stuff out there, and you're talking about the legal side being in front of a judge when we think about antitrust when it comes to meat packing. But also as a state party chair, former state party chair in the state, there's been some retirements. And I know some of our former colleagues making those announcements. So I want to get your take on that as well, all right?
Absolutely.
All right. Congressman Kelly Armstrong right here in North Dakota. Your thoughts are coming in at 35270. Wondering about some of the state meetings out in Bismarck. I will get to all that, but I got to take a quick pause here. Afternoons Live just getting started on a Tuesday afternoon. Stick around.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. get out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. You know, that's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just
I'm
trying to
going to
work.
get right back to my guest. He's Congressman Kelly Armstrong, right from North Dakota, where you catch me right now. This question comes in for you, Kelly, and I want you to answer that. Tyler asked the Congressman, what the hell did the Republicans do all of 2021? They could just as well have stayed home. They did not even participate. So your response to that texter?
Well, all I can tell you is that in the U.S. House is we don't get to determine what hearings we have, what witnesses we call. But when you're negotiating bills like the Build Back Better bill between the left and the far left, we aren't really part of that conversation. But we've been out here working on the things hopefully we can work on moving forward. I can tell you I've worked with Democrats on several different issues, whether it's crack parity and sentencing, other criminal justice reforms. I do try and find things with my colleagues on the other side that I can work with them. But it's a pretty partisan place right now. There's no doubt about that.
Let's talk about partisan places. Right now, you've got a lot of people retiring or deciding not to run for re-election. Some got redistricted out here in North Dakota. One of the themes keeps coming back about the environment changing from probably when you and I were serving together out there. But, I mean, when we're thinking, you know, the majority leader in both the Senate and the House, you got the Attorney General, you've got the Secretary of State. This is a quite consequential election. But what have you been hearing as far as these retirements from, in particular, the Republican side? You're a former Republican Party chair. So what are you hearing amongst your membership?
Yeah, well, and I think you can spread it out, right? Bill Devlin's retiring. Joan Heckerman's retiring. Obviously, Nicole and Aaron both decided not to run. But one of the things is there's a lot of people there that served for a very long time, and it's probably a pretty good argument against necessarily term limits. But we're also losing a lot of institutional knowledge. Yeah. I always say that the two biggest problems with any organization is too much turnover and not enough. But I also say that not any single member of any of these elected offices individually is what makes it great. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The next election cycle is going to be really interesting. It's fun to have new blood coming out. It gets people energized.
It'll be interesting. There's no doubt about that. And one thing that happens before that election is, you know, what happens at the district level, what happens at the state conventions. This message came in about 5 minutes ago for you. Tyler, please ask Kelly Armstrong what went on in Bismarck recently when with the state Republican meeting and district chairs. Do you have any insight on that, Congressman?
You know, I know there was a lot of dust up. I don't about whether they could do the things they did. I just, you know, as somebody who used to do that job, and I did it for 3 years and continue to watch it go on, I think when you make those tough decisions, you're going to always have people angry and upset, but they worked themselves through it and they made some decisions. And I'll just tell you the same thing I told the state party chair and everybody on that stuff. I'm an old defense attorney. I'll play by whatever rules you pass, and I'll move forward and try and win your guys' support. So.
All right, well, I'm going to switch gears here for you while I still got you. One of the things that has been top of people's minds here, whether you're a consumer buying the product or you're a rancher raising the product or a butcher, I mean, prices, beef, poultry, there's been a lot of talk about the meat packing industry in itself. Is it a monopoly? The administration came out with their ideas, I think it was just last week. And I had some of the ranchers on saying, all right, it sounds good, but there's more to be done. I'm just curious, when it comes to, you know, the four major meat packers, they're saying we already have laws when it comes to antitrust. Is it time to start putting some meat on that. And I mean, that was no pun intended, but here we are.
No,
Give me your thoughts on
absolutely.
this.
Listen, there's two different sides of this, and I think this is really important when you talk about antitrust, because I was on the antitrust subcommittee, and we actually requested a hearing on this with members on the anti-competition in the meatpacking industry. And there's two sides. There's the enforcement, which is DOJ, which has taken way too long. It took way too long to start. It's going to take way too long to finish. They're just slow slog cases. But the antitrust side of Congress, which is something hopefully we can actually have some bipartisan movement on, is where you create less barriers to competition in the marketplace. And I think this is really important for people who go to the grocery store, say beef is $2 more, and we know that's not going to our producers. That frustrates everybody in the state. We need to work better to get more competition laws and then maybe potentially give DOJ either more robust enforcement or mechanisms in which they can do it quicker, if that makes sense. But Congress doesn't do the DOJ or doesn't do antitrust enforcement. That's a purview of DOJ. What Congress can do and should be doing, and we've been requesting, we passed the cattle library thing, Dusty Johnson. It was a bipartisan bill right before we left for Congress. But we should be figuring out more and more ways to create or to remove barriers to entry and allow smaller packers to compete in the marketplace, particularly in states like North Dakota. And a lot of it's weird, just like USDA overtime rules for regulators and stuff, and it just really, really tips the scale to large meat packing people, and we got to figure out a way to break some of those down.
Yeah, well, I think you probably have a lot of people nodding their heads out here because it seems of all things that we talk about, it's a very partisan place right now. I mean, nationally, not just in Washington. When it comes to being able to put food on the table and make sure the people that raise that food actually get paid their fair share, I think we find some bipartisan agreement there at the very least.
Well, and you know, as people recognize some of the disruptions in the food or in the supply chain because of COVID, when it came to some of these things, we noticed them with a fire at a plant in Kansas City prior to COVID. We need to keep the momentum on, keep the heat on. So anybody listening, continue to reach out to our office, even if you're angry at us, and continue to reach out to everybody's office, because we got to. One of the things is the Ag Committee actually does a good job on a lot of these things, but we got to bring this issue in front of like the Antitrust Subcommittee and Judiciary, and we got to get some movement in other places other than just the Agriculture Committee, because I think far too many times the farmers and ranchers who are members in Congress know what's going on, but the other members of the 435 don't always understand it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Congressman, I'm out of time, man. We'll chat again next month, all right? You take care.
Bye.
Yep. Congressman Kelly Armstrong right here from North Dakota. Your thoughts, 35270. That is the Eye Consultants of North Dakota. You can let me know on the Laney studio line as well at 237-594. We'll check in with Madison Quinn, the Kfgo News. Rusty Halverson next.
So today on the MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community.
News 2:30, currently mostly sunny.
Thanks for watching News and Views.
We'll float around that number for the high today, this afternoon. Tonight, overnight low of 16. We'll get the rest of the KFGO Weather Center forecast right around the corner. After KFGO News, I'm Madison Quinn. Fargo legislator and businesswoman Shannon Roars-Jones is running for mayor. In her first candidate appearance during an interview on KFGO News and Views, Roars-Jones was asked why she decided to run for mayor.
Why? Because, I've had a lot of opportunities to work in my family's business in the city of Fargo. We have built and grown our business in Fargo. That afforded me the opportunity to serve in the legislature, where I got to do some really amazing things, some great work on criminal justice reform, economic development, public safety work, and I want to take that and just transition that to the local level.
Roars-Jones was first elected to the legislature in 2016 and reelected in 2020. The death of a Tinto, Minnesota firefighter who died in December from COVID-19 has been classified as a line-of-duty death by the National Fallen Firefighters Association. Tim Kath died December 31st at Sanford Medical Center in Fargo. Firefighters from North Dakota and Minnesota are expected to attend Kath's funeral tomorrow at St. Boniface Catholic Church in Lidgerwood, North Dakota. KFGO News Time, it's coming up on 2:32. We have 34 degrees. Mostly sunny, 34 degrees in Fargo-Moorhead. You're listening to KFGO News. 3 former Minneapolis police officers charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights during an arrest that ended in his death are scheduled to appear in federal court for a pretrial conference. Tuesday's hearing in St. Paul could address a host of issues, including what evidence will be allowed at trial. The 3 officers face a January 20th trial on federal charges alleging they deprived Floyd of his rights while acting under government authority. Their co-defendant, Derek Chauvin, was convicted on state murder and manslaughter charges and pleaded guilty last month to a federal count of violating Floyd's civil rights. Essentia Health Fargo is actively recruiting volunteers to work in the Cancer Center, Emergency Department, gift shop, and as patient escorts since the start of COVID-19. Essentia Health is down to only 30 volunteers. Carrie Anderson is the volunteer supervisor at Essentia.
Volunteers are so instrumental in our day-to-day work. I mean, they're the ones that come in and, help out the staff so that they can get back to the direct patient care. It's really amazing to see the connection that our volunteers have with our patients.
Qualifications include a successful background check, must be 18 or older, and be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 and the flu. KFGO Weather Center forecast this afternoon, mostly sunny. Breezy will be right around a high of 34, 35. Tonight, low of 16. Slight chance for light snow or light mixed bag. After midnight tomorrow, high of 26, mostly cloudy. We'll see a slight chance of light snow toward the evening tomorrow. And Thursday, high of 24, mostly cloudy. I'm Madison Quinn, KFGO News.
Rusty Halverson in the KFGO News Center.
Jello.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing well.
Very good.
Beautiful outside.
It is. The wind was starting to pick up by the time I came back. I mean, it's iced coffee weather now because we're on the positive side of 0.
There you go. The days are getting longer.
The days are getting longer. It's noticeable on that drive home.
Yes, it is.
But you know what? Again, if it wasn't for that wind.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, temperature-wise, I ain't going to complain.
I'll take it.
Yep, I will take it.
I think the cows will take it too.
I could about imagine. Anything with a heartbeat can take this temperature at this time of year. There's no question there, I do believe.
You bet.
So you've been out and about. You've been out in the elements.
Yeah, a little oot and a boot today. 52nd annual Sugar Beet Research Reporting Session. That was underway at the West Fargo Convention Center today. Going to be wrapping up shortly here this afternoon, but had a chance to talk this morning with Mohammed Khan on the sidelines of that event. He's, of course, a sugar beet specialist with North Dakota State University Extension and University of Minnesota Extension. Now, Mohammed said he's proud of these reporting sessions and all the work that's done by so many graduate students and whatnot, but he's also proud about the field days that they're able to host during the growing season.
We use the adage, seeing is believing. And one of the reasons why the growers trust us, they can come to our fields. We do the research directly where the growers have problems. So if you have a problem in, let's say, Foxhole, Minnesota, that's where we're going to go and do the research. If you have a problem in Grafton, some disease, and that's where we're going to go directly in the producer's field. We'll do work in the lab and in the greenhouse, but we go into the fields with the problems and then do the research to show the producers what we do, and they will ask the question, okay, is it practical? Is it economical? What do you do? How do you do it? When do you do it? And what are the end results?
We had a really good visit. The full visit is at kfgo.com, agriculture tab. Just look for that story headline. It'll be in the podcast section, Growing Harvest Ag Network. Another one of those sayings in agriculture.
But it was a lot more scholarly delivered.
Well,
there's an adage we use.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. Smarter than you and I. There's no doubt there. A lot of sayings in agriculture.
In fact, during the full visit, if folks want to check that out, we talked a little bit about Mohammed and his career. He's been around at NDSU, U of M since about 1999, and obviously, as you said, a very, very talented, bright guy when it comes to sugar beet research and production, and a real asset for NDSU.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Glad you got over there, man.
Yeah, you bet. Tomorrow, National Sunflower Association, they're kicking off another little research fling over there at the Holiday Inn. We're going to check in on that too.
The national one?
National Sunflower Association.
So hold on a second. It wasn't just the other day you were saying, hey, the National Farmers Bureau is going to be down in Puerto Rico. Yeah,
American Farm Bureau.
Oh, American Farm Bureau. Okay,
they're wrapping up in Atlanta, Georgia today, setting their policy today.
Okay, but Atlanta, Puerto Rico, you have other spots that are in California, Vegas.
Yep.
The sunflowers, they pulled the short straw and had to come to Fargo in January.
Yep. Could have been a potato grower, Anaheim, California, last week.
See? I'm looking around all the commodity groups. I'm thinking, how in the world did we end up in Fargo at this time of year? But I love Fargo. I love you all out there. I love being here. I'm glad to be home from Frisco where it was like 50-some degrees. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, if you have all these other national conventions going on and warmer temperatures at this time of year.
Yep.
That was some epic Leeds Lion backpedaling there on the field.
Just got to cover your tracks, man. If you want to let me have it, feel free. 35270.
Yeah, we're gonna check in with those folks tomorrow, but I'll check in with you next hour.
I'll save that seat for you. Hopefully, I'm still seated here.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, okay. Rusty Alverson. He already told you if you can't wait for the next hour, if you want to actually hear the entire audio of Mohammed Khan, with the 52nd annual Sugar Beet Research Reporting Session that was underway earlier. KFGO.com. You can click on that agriculture tab right there. Rusty, appreciate it, man.
You bet.
Him and Sarah Heinrich, multi-award winning agriculture journalists. Going to get you caught up with CBS National News, some thoughts that came in with our conversation with Congressman Kelly Armstrong. I will get to those right after this. Stick around.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen, Couch
790.
Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning. Paul Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on the MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11. And volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Ladies, studio line is 237-5948, 1-800-880-5346, and of course the Eye Consultants of North Dakota Text Club that so many of you choose and prefer is at 35270. I'm going to get to some of the messages that came in during my conversation with Congressman Armstrong. We're going to be doing that once a month. So certainly 20 minutes, 25 minutes, half hour, or whatever it was that we got. Not enough, especially with some of the questions that were sent in. Tyler, can you ask Representative Armstrong, with the labor shortage, how important the H-2B cap relief is for North Dakota? I think that's a fair question. Finding labor across the board has been an issue. It doesn't matter if you're talking about, a retail, if you're talking about fast food, if you're talking about an office setting, or if you're certainly talking about agriculture as well, and trying to get people, especially in some of those skilled positions, here to help out. I was hearing earlier, and we've had the individual on that was on KFGO earlier about just truck driving and some of the shortage there. I think there comes a time where you have to try to find ways, because we focus on the worker as far as the pay, the benefits, the lifestyle. I think that's changed for many of us and what we prefer, and I think that is entirely appropriate. And when we ask what needs to be done for the employees to help them find the job that they want, to find the role that they want, find the living that they want. I think that's one side of the coin, however. When you look at what could be done on the flip side, when the employer side in particular, of what could be done to help them get employees. And I do think there are some times where you can loosen that red tape up. You can cut just a strand here or there to allow for easier access to employees that might be in a given pool. Yes, some of that does include visas. That includes being able to get somebody, if you can't find the workforce where you are listening to me right now, to be able to get them from other areas to come here, whether it's to move here or for that visa, that term in which they can come, they can help you out in the field, they can help you move the product in vehicles, whatever it might be. I think with everything going on to where you have help wanted signs from the Quonset all the way to the end where you actually get the product that you just raise on that farm, I think it is time that we start looking into what can be done to make it easier to actually hire as well, instead of just the conversation we've been having, again, which is entirely appropriate, about what the employee needs. Because, again, when it comes to recruitment and retention, we had asked, what are employers doing? And we had some examples on the retention side. The recruitment, you've been seeing some of the, hey, we're going to do a hiring bonus. Well, that's often, of course, just a bonus, meaning it's a one-time thing. What could be done in some of these industries to help streamline your ability there? I think that was a fair question. I apologize. We just didn't have time to get to that. Another one, Tyler, you don't get competition by giving all the money to those big job creators, meaning the wealthy. The Republicans won't use that word. I think the competition that they're speaking of was when we're asking about this antitrust. We've had, Bill Bullard from RCAF. We had Farmers Union on when it came to what the administration is wanting to do to help get competition amongst meat processing and what you can do on the ranching side. And quite frankly, how that's going to trickle down to the consumer side and what you're paying at your grocery store. I think, quite frankly, looking at the tools that we have, and that's what I appreciated so much from Bill Bullard of RCAF when he joined the program that same or that next day, is saying, the money injected in, some of the grants that can be done for some of these younger or startup companies to go out there, find employees to do some of this. Sounds good. We welcome that, but that's a long-term goal. We've got tools in this toolbox right now that, quite frankly, aren't being utilized in this antitrust, which is why I asked Congressman Armstrong about that, because he's been involved in that on the committee work. Plus his background as an attorney, and to hear at least there is bipartisan agreement that you should and you could go through that process, it's time to pick up the phone and start dialing your delegation saying, get moving on this so we can actually get there, because I think that is probably the key when it comes to competition in this area, is to not allow it to monopolize towards those four packers that we've been just, I think, learning and paying a little bit more attention to over the last couple of years here, because of how expensive everything's gotten. Tyler, tell Kelly thanks for his office helping me getting my PPP loan forgiven. His office helped months back, so kudos. He's got my vote. So those are coming in. Speaking of vote, and if the congressman has announced already that he is running for re-election, I apologize that I missed it, but I have no doubt that he is. And when we think about this upcoming election, it's just across North Dakota, you got to ask, is there even going to be competition, at least on the Democratic side? I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if you have within the party itself, which is why I was trying to kind of pick at that, when you have, what is becoming more of a public dispute within the ND GOP of, do you call them the establishment? Do you call them the good old boys? Whatever you want to call them. You have that. They've set some rules to where you've got some people angry out there that feel, even as wrong as I find it to be, that they've almost been disenfranchised within the Republican Party. I wouldn't be surprised if that leads to some pushback. I don't know that it goes anywhere. I think about the challenge. Remember when they're trying to recall Governor Burgum? I think there was somebody from Minot attempting that. So if there's any competition going into that next election, I wouldn't be surprised if it's from the Republican Party in of itself, because I have heard nothing from the North Dakota Democratic Party. And it's a challenge to those that I have no doubt are listening right now. Are you finding candidates? Are you recruiting? Are you struggling? I'm just curious, because it sounds like there's some radio silence. And that time I do have pun intended from that minority party in the state. Messages continue to come into 35270. That's the iConsultants of North Dakota. Tyler, wish Kelly Armstrong would run for Hovind seat. I would vote for him, and I am a Democrat. That comes in. Here's one thing that I admire about Congressman Armstrong. We served together. We disagreed. We debated. When he was the chair, he made it known that he was going to do everything within his party to go ahead and defeat people like me. But at least he comes on and at least he answers the questions. And it's not the tap dance around, as you hear from some, candidates or some politicians. He came on. I'd asked him right away about his vote on the infrastructure. I asked if he regretted, and he said, "Yep." Go ahead and make news that I regret that. That's what I appreciate. I'm not going to always agree with him. Certainly probably disagree on certain aspects, especially when it comes to some of the voting rights, that I do think there's a role to have some safeguards at the federal level. I do. And if we want to talk about voter ID, by all means, you know where I sit on that. If you're a regular listener, pay for it then. And provide the ID for people if you're so gung-ho about voter ID, because if the whole thing is that this bill is going to prohibit that, well, then fine. Find that ground, but then provide it, because that eliminates the barrier. And that's the big thing for me, is why are we making it harder and more difficult for some people to vote in select states? And I want to underscore that, in select states. Why are we going that way? And why couldn't there be some safeguards at the federal level to make sure that, you know what, if you're living in Georgia, for example, or Arizona, wherever it is, that you have the ability to vote just like we do in North Dakota, where it's quite simple? That's my question. I didn't really get an answer, but hopefully we'll get there next month. Get your weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmancy. We'll come back and wrap up the first hour next.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek Hansen, Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that from It Takes Two? Doug here with the morning crew this morning. Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Too Tall Tom. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your home.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Sometimes people try to get cute with insults, and they swing, and they miss. You're a wishy-washy bird, comes in. Walk me through this.
I mean, I understand 2/3 of the insult.
And if you have to start explaining it, Mark, it's not quite sticking.
No.
But thanks for listening, and thanks for attempting to leave a dent. But go ahead, text back into 35270 and explain yourself. Or better yet, call into 237-5948. A couple of things that I want to get to in the second hour here. This one, I visited with some gun dealers. Now, we've talked about gun ownership, firearm safety for quite some time, back and forth about what you'd be willing and what you would welcome, I guess, when it comes to making things more safe, when it comes to gun ownership, or what can make the firearm more safe when it comes to the product itself. And on Reuters, there was an exclusive that came out about smart guns finally arriving in the United States. And they're talking about how that would disrupt the industry. And I don't know if I'm there on the disruption, unless there are, again, things that would change of mandates. And we'll get into other mandates a little bit later on when it comes to insurance and having to pay for, and I think that rightfully so, paying for those at-home COVID tests. Not getting a lot of clarity from some of the insurance companies right now on what the mandate means, because it is quite new, but they've got till Saturday to figure out. We'll discuss that. But the personalized smart gun is something that they're attempting to finally get here. There's been attempts. I don't think it's necessarily caught on. But when you think about what's actually available out there and what you can do to personalize access to things. I mean, how many of you out there that are a gun owner have one of the safes in which you have to utilize your 3 fingerprints to open that up? And one of the things that you have companies trying to do to help get these products a little bit more, I guess, personalized and safer around the house, so to speak, I guess, is to have it to where it does some of that same technology that we're already used to when it's on your smartphone. Hell, when you think about some of the things when it comes to just accessing your vehicle, or quite frankly, just things in general, that we have the technology there, but we haven't implemented it necessarily on firearms. So my question is going to be, would you support having this to where, whether it's your fingerprint or how you have on your key fobs, some of that same technology they're trying to, and they say they're going to be introducing that right here in America pretty soon. But if you're opposed to this, whether you're a gun owner or a gun dealer, God, I would love to hear from you at 35270, or you can also call into 237-594. I'll tell you a little bit more about the technology after we get you caught up with CBS National News. We'll check back in. I believe Paul Jurgens in that KFGO News Center. That and so much more, including mayoral races. Minnesota families are going to be able to potentially get $200 if they get their children 5 to 11 vaccinated. All that and more is on the table. This second hour of Afternoons Live. Stick around.
Here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek Hansen, Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that? It Takes Two. Doug here with the morning crew this morning. Jerkins News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Too tall. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Access, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night, get out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. You know, that's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Warrior report. We'll continue those because I have no doubt with the heat and the wind the way it is, some of those road conditions in those open areas might get a little sketchy later on. Let's get you caught up with KFGO News. More Afternoons Live next.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead, mostly sunny and 34 degrees. I'm Paul Jurgens. Prompted by the carbon monoxide poisoning deaths of 7 families in Moorhead, Senator Amy Klobuchar and Senator John Hoeven are asking the Consumer Product Safety Commission to step up efforts to educate people about that danger. Klobuchar and Hoeven want to know how the commission is coordinating with states on CO poisoning awareness, if that includes education and outreach in languages other than English, and if the agency needs more resources. Klobuchar and Hoeven introduced a bill earlier named for Nicholas and Zachary Burt, 2 young brothers from Kimball, Minnesota, who died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Republican State Representative Shannon Roars is running for Fargo mayor. Roars Jones is an attorney and Fargo native. She has served in the legislature since 2017. She will face Mayor Tim Mahoney, who has held the post since 2015. Other possible candidates for mayor include City Commissioners Arlette Preston and Dave Pepcorn. Mahoney took over as acting mayor when the then Mayor Dennis Wallaker died after a long battle with kidney cancer. Mahoney, a general surgeon who says he's a political independent, plans to run for re-election in June. Roars Jones says she's undecided if she would seek re-election to her House seat. Fargo Cass Public Health Director Desi Fleming says they're starting to see the impact of the Omicron variant locally, with increases in the number of cases. That's not all. Fleming says a storefront testing site in South Fargo on 25th Street South is being inundated by the number of those wanting to get a COVID test, and staff is stretched.
We will probably top 4,000 to 5,000 people tested. Due to a likely shortage of antigen tests, we are no longer allowing people to receive a PCR and an antigen test. They will need to choose which format they want. We are the only free testing site in the county, so it's really proving challenging. When we first agreed to do testing, it was to cover gaps for travelers. But we have become the main testing site in the community, which is difficult with our limited staff numbers.
Fleming says there are now more than 1,000 confirmed cases of mostly Omicron variant in Cass County. Statewide, there are about 3,000 cases. The company that plans to develop a nickel mine in northeastern Minnesota has made a major supply deal with Tesla, the electric vehicle maker. Tesla is committed to purchasing 75,000 metric tons of nickel concentrate over 6 years from Talon Metals' planned mine in Tamarack, that is west of Duluth. Talon hopes to open the mine by January 2026, but has not started the permitting process yet. Nickel is a key ingredient of electric vehicle batteries. The death of a Tinta, Minnesota firefighter who died in December from COVID-19 has been classified as a line-of-duty death by the National Fallen Firefighters Association. Tim Kath died December 31st at Sanford Medical Center in Fargo. Firefighters in North Dakota and Minnesota are expected to attend Kath's funeral tomorrow. It's St. Boniface Catholic Church in Lidgerwood, North Dakota. A GoFundMe account also has been set up to benefit Kath's wife, Erin, and 10 children. Near 34 for our high this afternoon. That is our current reading at our KFGO studios in South Fargo. Turning mostly cloudy then tonight. A slight chance of light snow, maybe some mixed precipitation overnight, 16. Mostly cloudy tomorrow. Evening light snow is a possible, 26. Thursday, 24, mostly cloudy. 27 for Friday, breezy with a chance of light snow. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
All right, now this person's speaking our language here. Tyler, let's get serious. Where's a good place to go ice fishing? Because I heard Ottertail is tough going. So let's throw that out there to the rest of you at 35270, or you can call me on the Laney Studio line, 237-594. Of course, that text comes into the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. Wondering where a good place to go ice fishing, because they're hearing, and if you're in the Ottertail area and you're saying, hey, it's not tough going out here, you feel free to correct this individual. I did see, for example, it was earlier today that I saw that for Lake Ashtabula, they're going to have an ice fishing tournament that was scheduled that they canceled because of conditions out there. And I have not heard much as far as depth goes. Every Thursday we visit with Tanner Turney. Now, of course, last week we were en route to Frisco, and we didn't have a chance to connect. So I have no idea depth on Devil's Lake. I know that earlier on, and some of that northern area, of course, the can-do spots, yeah, they had some ice being made earlier on. It's been cold. We've also got more snow this year than what there had been, so I'm not sure if that kind of got in the way of things. Because I haven't been out. I mean, I just haven't. We've been going a number of other things, so I don't know where the good spots are on what any given body of what usually is water. So if somebody's out there ice fishing right now, or you have any suggestions. Now, you don't have to give me your spots. I don't think that's what this individual is asking in the text club. But if they are saying that the Otter Tail is tough going, they're just wanting another spot to go, help a guy or a gal out is what we're asking for you. Have you been out yet this year? Have you?
You know,
you
funny
don't have
enough,
the hard sides out
I
by any
have
means.
never been ice fishing.
Oh?
Really? Never. I don't know why. I've got a lot of friends that do it. I just have for whatever reason, but I've heard from people that I know that do that this has been a tough ice year for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's surprising to me now. Granted, I'm not an expert by any means, whether it's meteorology or ice making or ice fishing. But when you have the temps being what they were for so long, now granted, I know we had in there snow events that happened. Some spots got certainly a lot more than others. I know that can impact some of this as well. But I'm surprised to hear at this point in time that it is, January 11th, and some spots like this, and people are saying, "Look, I'm hearing that Otter Tail's not what it usually is this time of year." It surprises me. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I am.
I was even surprised this morning listening to, as we like to call him, the Mouth in the South, saying he's even a little nervous about taking his fish house out on his. And Lake Elsie is not a big lake.
No, but I think there's some water movement in that one that might disrupt that. But I have not heard much about Otter Tail as far as the lake itself. So if you're hearing that it's tough going, I'm going to go ahead and trust you. But hopefully we can get somebody to say, "Hey, I've been on this, and here's the depth on this location." But if you are seeing, some of these ice fishing tournaments, which a lot of the times go for a good cause, I think about the fire departments, which we've talked at length about the fact that we have some of these events that go on to try to raise money for these areas. But yeah, fire departments that throw some of these. You've got, I think about the Greater JC's extravaganza that's going to be coming up in not too long a time here. If you're seeing some of these smaller areas cancel, it's kind of concerning. I'm not saying that be prepared for some of the bigger ones to be pulling some of the same strings, but it makes you wonder just where we are compared to other years when we've been making ice, because it hasn't exactly been what I would consider mild temperature-wise. I mean, certainly this week, today's decent. Tomorrow, you're going to get an update from Too Tall Tom here in about a half hour, but a high of 26 tomorrow. It's not too shabby, but for the last couple of weeks when we're talking about dangerously low, wind chill conditions, I'm just surprised. Tyler, there is plenty of thick ice in the Detroit Lakes area, 15 plus. So, okay, Detroit Lakes comes in saying 15 plus. The ice fishing is rough in North Dakota due to snow depth. See, that's what I was wondering, if the depth of which we've got, some areas certainly more than others, if that bad timing of it disrupted some of that being done. We'll have to visit with Tanner Turney again on Thursday to see just on the Devil's Lake side. Now, I know that's not the only premier destination across the area here, but it seemed as though the early start of this, okay, we're going to be making ice, and now it seems as though those hopes, aspirations of having that ideal, that perfect situation doesn't exactly be the case. Continue to send them into the iConsultants of North Dakota text club 35270. You can give me where that is so we can help this individual out if they're not going to the spot where they had planned. I'm going to take a quick pause here. I want to get into this conversation. We'll continue talking about the ice out there, but I saw on Reuters earlier today, and it's an exclusive that we're going to talk about. Smart guns finally arriving in the United States. They're saying, wow, it might shake up the industry. I don't know that I'm there yet, but when you think about the technology, and we've heard the tragedies of children finding a firearm and accidentally shooting and killing, a family member or accidentally themselves. That reason is why you have some of these companies coming out publicly saying we are going to try to advance things that would prohibit just any individual to pick up any other firearm, and that, whether by accident or intention, utilize it by just, quite frankly, using some of the same technology you got in the palm of your hand right now on your smartphone. We're talking fingerprint. We're talking about the chip technology when it comes to some of the radio waves. Think about that key fob and having to be within a certain radius of getting into your vehicle and some of those newer models as well. All of that technology they're trying to put into a firearm to make it more safe on who can utilize it. I mean, where do you find an argument against being able to utilize this technology when it comes to gun safety? I'm going to talk about that when we come back. I'm Tyler Axton. You got it locked in. Afternoons Live right here on KFGO.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Air
Mighty
Kansas
790
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that?
It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Force.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
in which, you know what, you don't even plug her in. But it has to be within a certain radius. You got the radio wave type technology to where if you're close to a certain area, you've got the ability to do things with the ability within your car. Those technologies that are already there, there's companies that are trying to put that within a firearm. And for me, if we're going to sit here and talk about gun safety, firearm responsibility, and if you've got manufacturers willing to dive in the deep end here saying, look, we've got it, we were going to try to do this, and they've already done a trial and error on much of this, and now it's finally getting introduced here, why would you be opposed to this? I mean, and if you're a gun dealer, which I know this is probably coming at a blind side here because it seems so new. And if I'm wrong on that, by all means, you know how to correct me. Is this not something you'd be willing to wanting to have on your display to sell because it gives you a little bit more peace of mind and it might prevent some of the things that we just discussed? I want to hear from you at 35270. Tyler, I'm a gun owner with way too many, but people will scream at you about the theory that if we let them control the way we store our guns is just the beginning to restricting our Second Amendment, et cetera, we aren't winning this battle either, just like the vaccine. You're probably right. But this, if there was ever going to be a middle ground, I mean, are we so fearful of technology when it comes to this that, they're going to find a way to just keep the malfunction it? Because you start getting a little bit conspiracy on that, in my opinion. As far as, if it's technological, if they have tried it and if they have come through on the other end saying, you know what, we haven't found the errors of which people have been concerned about, then why not? I mean, I was visiting with a gun dealer earlier and they said, look, if this is where things are going and where this is where they expect things to be going, then you know what, it's time to get on board. And as a gun owner myself, I think we already have some of those when it comes to the safes just in and of itself and what you are able to do with the technology I'm talking about, just to even access it from that point. So explain to me why you would be opposed to having this ability to prevent somebody from whether it's stealing a firearm or using it because it was unattended at a home, which I think that's a conversation we've had at length before of you have the gun, but with it comes responsibility to store it in a place of which only you can access it or you're aware of it. So enlighten me. More messages coming in at 35270. That is, of course, the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. Tyler, people who are against common sense gun safety are lacking common sense, in my opinion. Another one, Tyler, all Republican arguments are now slippery slope arguments, every single issue. Well, then, I mean, what's the slippery slope here then? Because I know I've got a lot of Republicans listening to me, and if this is a slippery slope that we're going to utilize the technology that we already rely on and every other gadget we have, then where does the end come to where, all right, this is just that slippery slope, and at the bottom of that hill, this is where we end up? Because I'm not seeing it. And if you've got the end picture, if you've got the end of the line, by all means, let's discuss where it is. Because if we're trying to have the conversation and actually getting manufacturers involved in this, because when you talk about, you throw out any of these arguments, then the NRA, which really is about manufacturing, comes in and says, nope, absolutely not. Don't even begin going there. This is being pushed forward by some manufacturers. And in fact, I'm going to try to find in this article here, again, I'm getting it from Reuters. I think they're from Idaho is one of them, and the other is a Kansas company. So, I mean, these are good old American companies by the first glance at this that are trying to do something because of what we've been talking about in the news. I think it's refreshing. We've been challenging to have people come to the table, especially those that everything you can't infringe on any of this, which this is not an infringement. I think it's an advancement. Let's continue the conversation. Why wouldn't we want to go down this path? We'll come back to that. Also, those road warrior reports and some of the ice fishing, because somebody said, look, I'm hearing that at Otter Tail. It's not ideal. You can continue to get those in. In fact, we reach out to our very own in-house ice fishing experts, and we'll get some more intel for you out there. Get you an update from Rusty Halverson right after this KFGO News. It is 3:28 KFGO time. This is Afternoons Live. Stick around.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
Here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Air
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that? It Takes Two. Doug here with the morning crew this morning. Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital.
KFGO News, mostly sunny and 34. I'm Paul Jerkins. Fargo legislator and businesswoman Shannon Royce Jones is running for mayor in her first candidate appearance during an interview on KFGO News and Views with Joel Heitkamp. Royce Jones was asked why she decided to run for mayor.
Why? Because, I've had a lot of opportunities to work in my family's business in the city of Fargo. We have built and grown our business in Fargo. That afforded me the opportunity to serve in the legislature, where I got to do some really amazing things, some great work on criminal justice reform, economic development, public safety work, and I want to take that and just transition that to the local level.
Royce Jones was first elected to the legislature in 2016 and reelected in 2020. Mayor Tim Mahoney is running for another term. Other potential candidates for mayor include City Commissioners Arlette Preston and Dave Pepcorn. A leader in the Native American struggle for civil rights and a founder of the American Indian movement has died. Clyde Belcourt was 85. Belcourt died from cancer at his home in Minneapolis. Belcourt was a co-founder in 1968 of AIM, which began as a local organization in Minneapolis to deal with issues of police brutality and discrimination against Native Americans. The group led a string of major national protests in the 1970s, including a 71-day occupation in 1973 of Wounded Knee, South Dakota, to highlight corruption on the reservation and federal injustices against Indians. 34, this is KFGO News. This is KFGO News. Minnesota Education Association President Denise Speck says more schools across the state are switching to distance learning due to staff shortages.
There are some cases where so many teachers are calling in sick that there aren't enough people to lead the classroom.
This is happening every single day. This is very unsustainable, and it is coming to a point where schools are just saying, we can't do this anymore. We cannot cobble together this puzzle every single day and say that it's good for students or staff.
Speck says just about every teacher she talks with agrees that in-person learning is better for them and the students. She says administrators need to follow prevention guidelines better, which would help keep schools open.
That's reporter Steve Simpson. A pipeline company that plans to transport carbon dioxide to North Dakota for disposal will partner with an ammonia plant developer to pick up its emissions from a Grand Forks plant. Pipeline developer Summit Carbon Solutions and ammonia plant developer Northern Plains Nitrogen have announced a partnership. Northern Plains Nitrogen's plant will supply low-carbon nitrogen-based fertilizer to farmers in the northern U.S. and Canada. The company expects to annually capture 500,000 tons of carbon dioxide. Summit plans to inject the ammonia plant's emissions into rocks deep underground in Oliver and Mercer counties, where its pipeline system will end. North Dakota's Bureau of Criminal Investigation has a new officer. His name is Agent Lee, a black lab retriever. He's an accelerant-sniffing dog. He can be used in suspicious fires to determine if some kind of substance was used to start a blaze. Attorney General Wayne Stengham says BCI has 2 other dogs that are used to detect drugs and electronic devices.
After we had the other 2 dogs and they've proven their worth, and we realize that there are a lot of fires that may be suspicious and that we could use something like Agent Lee to assist us in the investigation, both to see if there was an accelerant, but very often they can see if there was not one, and that's equally as useful.
South Dakota U.S. Senator Mike Round says he stands by his statement that former President Trump lost the election after Trump called a Republican a jerk for his comments. Round says he was disappointed but not surprised by Trump's attack. The senator says his remarks weren't new. He says there was no evidence of widespread fraud and that Republicans should focus on winning elections. Fargo-Moorhead to mid-30s this afternoon. We are at 34 as forecast. As our high from meteorologist Tom Shabansky, mostly sunny, turning mostly cloudy tonight. Maybe some light snow, mixed precipitation overnight, 16. Tomorrow, 26, mostly cloudy. Some light snow toward evening, a possibility. Again, it is 34. Fargo-Moorhead, Paul Juergens News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Halverson back in
Yes,
the
sir.
KFG, just as he promised, just like yesterday. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
So, one thing we talked at length about the other day was beef and poultry.
Yeah.
I'm going to be curious if this is not agriculture related, but it's got a pig in the story. Did you hear about the guy that is recovering from a breakthrough pig heart transplant?
Oh, xenotransplantation. It's a thing.
You have heard. Go on.
Oh, yeah.
Enlighten me.
2 decades ago, when I first became a farm broadcaster, that was one of the hot topics, that they were working on the fact that pigs and people have organs that are very similar to each other in size. And so they talked about kidney transplants. I think I heard that in the national news recently. And now this is a heart transplant?
A U.S. man with a terminal heart disease was implanted with a genetically modified pig heart in a first of its kind surgery. And 3 days later, the patient's doing well.
Yeah, xenotransplantation. You take a part from another animal and you put it into a person.
I love it. I totally unprompted.
Yeah.
I had no idea that you were insightful on this whole thing. Oh, yeah. My first day on the job, I was a beat writer. Guess what?
Well, I was pre-vet for a little while.
Surgery. So the University of Maryland Medicine was among the first to demonstrate the feasibility of pig-to-human heart transplant.
Yeah, we were talking about that about 25 years ago, how that could be a thing someday.
25 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, she finally got her done, but
yeah.
I mean, exciting the possibilities, I think.
Yeah.
After 25 years, I mean, they're showing that, hey,
yeah,
we were
kidneys, liver, hearts. I mean, so many different things from piggies.
I am starstruck right now. At a loss of words about your knowledge. I had no idea that I just stumbled into.
They keep me around for a reason.
Yeah, he's very versatile in his knowledge. And it's not just markets. It's not just ports. It's pig hearts and lungs.
Yep. Pig's feet.
Yeah.
Pickled pig's feet.
I've never. Have you?
Oh, my mom's a big fan. I've tried them when I was a kid. Yeah.
Describe it. I imagine the texture is something.
Oh, well, if you can get around the site, I mean.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. You have the appearance, you have the texture, smell and flavor, right? That's what the experience is. And by the time you're probably belly up at a bar and you see a pickled jar of pig's feet, you're probably past the appearance. The smell, maybe. Yeah. That's all. I mean, that smells like a pickle, right?
They're pickled.
So for me, it'd be the texture.
Yeah. I don't remember. It's been so long. It's been so long. Or maybe I blocked it out. I don't know. But yeah, that's a thing.
Okay. Well, nope. Pickled eggs is the way to go, but that's
those are good.
Pickled eggs are good.
Pork rinds are okay in moderation.
Well, everything in moderation.
Yeah.
The thing, there are some places that nail pickled eggs. One of them used to be downtown Fargo.
Really?
Yeah, no longer there, as the Lauermans had great pickled eggs.
I do remember Lauermans.
Now it's almost like a surprise if you find the jar of pickled eggs wherever you're at, because they're not just as readily available. And I don't know why. Here's one thing you don't want to do, and I'm going to tell you from experience: the drive down to Frisco.
Oh boy!
There was one of the buddies at a gas station. There were pickled eggs, but they were in a wrapper, just like you would get like a Pugsley sandwich.
Oh!
But they were beets, like it was purple flavored one, and then one was a buffalo chicken pickled egg.
Boy, I would.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're adding hot sauce onto a pickled egg?
Think about the dynamics.
In a, let's be honest, cold environment, so windows are up. 3 dudes.
Yeah. We were close to the hotel, thankfully close to the hotel.
This sounds like a Hyde Camp fish house kind of situation.
We're going to be getting, actually, I just got confirmed Kyle Aguirre is going to join us because people were wondering about, somebody said Otter Tail's not sounding so good. So they were wondering where they should go ice fishing. So we'll visit with Kyle Aguirre in a little bit.
Yeah, depth of the ice, that's hot topic right now.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, somebody just randomly texted in, so they put us to work, and we'll get some answers for you out there.
All right.
Well, I didn't ask you to come in and talk about pig hearts, but I was certainly impressed by your knowledge, nor pickled eggs, but here we are.
Sure.
Let's talk about the real meat and potatoes of what Tom Vilsack's been up to.
Okay. Now, the American Farm Bureau, they're wrapping up today. They had their delegate session, and they're setting their policy for the year ahead. The big headliner yesterday, Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack, and he talked about the work being done to reduce some of the slowdowns and delays in the supply chain. Companies now being challenged by tight labor force, congestion at the ports, high fertilizer prices. And Vilsack says the administration is working on the areas where they have control.
Looking constantly for ways in which we can provide help and assistance to get us through a very difficult time. But I think over the course of the next year or so, you're going to see that supply chain begin to catch up to demand. And hopefully we'll begin to see greater stability in prices and hopefully be in a position of being able to bring those input costs down and continue to maintain good income.
Now, one step the administration is taking, Tyler, the RMA, Risk Management Agency, just coming out with a new proposal. Farmers who apply nitrogen with split applications for non-irrigated corn across parts of the Corn Belt could be eligible to buy supplemental coverage for their crop insurance under a new USDA program if they were prevented from doing that second application because of weather. Sarah posted up a story about that on her website. Also, SDSU Extension just came out with a news release about optimal rates for nitrogen on corn. I posted that up just a bit ago. So KFGO.com, agriculture tab, there you go.
It's all right there in one easy, convenient location. All you got to do is click a couple of times to get there.
Yep.
We got a caller. You want to?
Yeah, I'm here.
Feet.
I'm here.
I believe it's Colleen calling. And Colleen, how are you?
Fine. I was just listening to you about talking about pig's feet.
Yes.
And I've eaten pickled pig's feet all my life, and they're delicious. And my kids say I'm crazy.
You couldn't.
But they are. They're very good.
Okay, Colleen, where do you get pickled pig feet?
Well, I haven't seen them in the stores for a long time, but I used to eat them all the time when my parents bought them.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? We're gonna challenge the fellow Afternoons Live listeners. We're gonna find out where we can find those pickled pig's feet.
Now, Colleen, was the pickled pig's feet, was that kind of a holiday treat for you, or is it a year-round kind of thing?
Yeah, it was mostly at Christmas.
Okay. Yep.
I don't know if we had it other times or not, but I remember that jar of pickled pig's feet. I can't even say it.
I can't either. I was stumbling and bumbling my way through it too, Colleen. You're not alone.
It's a pickle to pronounce.
All right. Thanks for calling in. Challenge out there. Well, a Christmas delicacy. That's the first I've heard of a pickled pig's feet.
Yeah.
We're going to get that out on the first try one of these times. As you know what? Here you got your what is the board now? The charcuterie board.
Charcuterie. Charcuterie.
Okay, that's worse than saying pickled pig's feet.
It's a cutting board. Come on.
Yeah, here's your cutting board.
It's got a
with
handle
cheese,
on it.
cheese, ham, some olives. Oh, and over here's your pickled pig's feet.
Yeah.
And right next to there is your eggnog.
Oh, yeah. You got to have eggnog if you're going to have pickled pig's feet.
All right, here's the two questions that I have. Where do you buy pickled pig's feet right now in the year 2022? But also, I want to know what bar or what establishment has the best jarred bar food. Meaning your pickled eggs, the pickled pig's feet, whatever else comes in jars.
Yeah.
There you find now.
Yeah. Boy.
I'm going to get back to the phones because we're blowing them up now. Because Mike's called in on pig's feet.
Hey, Mike.
Mike, how you doing, man? You got Rusty Halverson and me, Tyler Exodus, on there.
I just want to tell you, I grew up eating those feet as well, and you can still find them at Hornbacher's, but now it's a fad as opposed to a real good firm meat like we grew up with.
And you prefer the firm, I assume, Mike, by the way you described?
Yeah. Now they're kind of, it's just a fatty, it's not as good as it used to be, that's for sure.
Now, Mike,
It's like so many things.
Yeah, like Colleen, our other caller, pickled pig's feet for you, holiday thing or year-round kind of thing?
Actually, if we could find a good jar, and we looked at the jar to see, what was meat and what was tallow and what was fat, and if we could find a good jar, it was year-round.
Okay.
All right. Mike, appreciate the phone call, man. You take care. Boy, we've stumbled into something here. Text club's blowing up at 35270. We're talking pickled meats, pickled eggs, pickled all things right after the CBS News update. Rusty, you want to stick around?
Sure.
Okay. He's not working real hard over there anyway.
Yeah.
Get you caught up CBS National News headlines. I'll get to your text clubs right after this.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that? It Takes Two. Doug here with the morning crew this morning. News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Too tall. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined
here
up.
on Afternoons Live on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm Tyler Axis, your host. Eric Johnson, your producer. Rusty Halverson, our egg reporter. And what started off by me asking a question about a pig's heart transplant, which Rusty Halverson blew me away with his knowledge, turned into pig's feet. And that's where we're going to connect with Jim. We're talking pig feet. Jim, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
What's on your mind today? Pig's feet.
Well, I kind of grew up in my 20s and belly up to the bar days after college, and they were common in the Longhorn Saloon in Cheyenne, North Dakota.
Oh, I'm familiar with the old Cheyenne streets. They were popular. The pig's feet were popular up there, huh?
Yeah, and pretty much in the spring and in the fall, we sold a lot more of them.
Yeah. Well,
and pickled eggs and pickled turkey gizzards.
Jim, I'm glad you got to the turkey gizzards because that's what I'm getting blown away in the text club. That pickled turkey gizzards and pickled chicken gizzards are the two that are coming in right now. Never heard.
And then the eggs too.
Oh yeah, the eggs. You can't go wrong with pickled eggs, Jim.
No.
If I see a jar behind the rail, I'm getting one. Usually with the Busch Light washer. Jim, thanks for listening. All right. Here's some of the text club. Here's what we're going to have to do is find the establishment that's got a variety of pickled jars. We're talking pickled gizzards, pickled pig's feet, certainly the pickled eggs. You
we could be on to something here.
We could. You tell us where it is, and maybe Afternoons Live's crew are going to show up. Here's what we are falling into here. The Wolverton Bar had pickled pork hocks. They were fantastic. This one, You Old Schoolhouse, which I'm wondering if that's a typo, or is it actually You Old Schoolhouse in Edwards, Minnesota has good pickled eggs. Count me in. I got to look to figure out where Edwards, Minnesota is. If it's right in the backyard, I apologize. That 6th grade, map studies.
Geography.
She's gone.
Yeah.
Tyler, I used to eat pickled turkey gizzards while drinking in bars years ago. I am glad I quit drinking.
Well, there you go.
Somebody says you can find it on Amazon. There are some things I have no problem ordering on Amazon. Anything pickled is not something I want to order on Amazon and have delivered to my house, though.
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference would be there.
Know your source,
Yeah, I want to go examine the jar before I make that purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ye Old Schoolhouse. It comes in.
Ye Old Schoolhouse.
Pickled feet is the current answer to pickled gizzards. They're the best. So there we go. Pickled things.
Yeah.
If you have that jar up there and you have gizzards and feet, have you ever done the gizzards?
Well, again, long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes.
Okay. No,
yeah.
see, and I haven't done either of those. So, challenge, it's been laid out there, and I'll accept it at some point. I just got to find the right place to go.
So versatile. Everything but the oink.
That's the thing. When you go to like some of the tailgates, there are, roasting the whole pig there.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. I mean, some of it, of course, you want to look. But no, I mean, you could do some of the work before you throw it over that open flame, just in my opinion. Rusty, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you bet.
I'll let you go. Get you that weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmansky. There are more texts coming in, some pickled tongue and pickled heart coming in. More Afternoons Live right after this. Stick around.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. get out of the hospital last night. And I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. You know, that's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that from It Takes Two? Doug here with the morning crew this morning. News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
You know what happened to the good old days when you just walked in and said, okay, give me a PBR and 2 pickled eggs, please. Now it's, give me the hoppiest IPA you have, and you know what? I'll take a side of pretzels and ranch. That's what it is now. I mean, that's just...
No, that sounds good.
Yeah, no, not the IPA part. You know, I'm not an IPA guy.
Beer and a shot of whiskey. Just do it. Just do it old school.
Forget the food. Forget that. No, it's just something that I imagine in pockets of our listening area, as we're finding out, that you still have some of those older traditional delicacies. And then, so you'd have those jars, I'd imagine. Then you'd have the box of candy bars.
Mm-hmm.
Just the plain M&Ms.
Yep.
Plain M&Ms. What were the other ones that are probably out there?
There's probably a Hershey bar. There's probably a Hershey bar in there, like a milk chocolate Hershey bar.
A nut roll. You think of that nut roll?
Yep. Maybe a Snickers. Maybe.
No.
Definitely individual bags of peanuts.
Correct. Yep. And if you found the place to where you had to crack the shell on your own, you knew you were at the right spot. That's what I'm saying. Okay, because you had asked in the text club at 35270 what ice conditions or because you heard that Otter Tail wasn't ideal. Otter Tail hasn't been defending themselves. Hey, our ice is fine. Kyle Aguirre, part of our Gone Outdoors. We didn't get a chance to visit with him on Friday. We just connected. We'll visit with him about ice conditions in the upper Midwest. That is coming up after CBS National News. We'll check back in with Paul Juergens as well. I'm Tyler Axis. This is Afternoons Live on KFGO.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. The hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11. And volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Roberson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek Hansen, Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that from It Takes Two? Doug here with the morning crew this morning. Paul Juergens News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Force.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on the MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
It is 4:05. That means it's time for a fact checker at 4. These are things that you've probably been seeing on your social media feeds, and wonder if they are in fact true. Are they factual? Or are they lies that people are sharing around? This is your chance to get it cleared up, at least one topic at a time. Here it is for today. Did an anti-vax individual tell his followers to start drinking urine instead of get the vaccine?
Yep, I'm going to say yes, that happened.
According to an anti-vax leader, there is that cure. That is urine. Christopher Key says that, yep, just go ahead, drink up. That's where we've gotten in this whole thing. Is that you've got people that somehow have a following. How this Christopher Key has a following, I have no idea. But people listen to him, and this is what he's trying to tell you to do. It's a factual thing you're seeing. I would recommend following the doctors and scientists and just doing what they recommend, which is certainly not drinking that. That's our fact checker at 4. When we come back, let's talk about ice fishing because you're wondering what conditions were. We've delivered for you. Kyle Aguirre, part of that Gone Outdoors program. That's next.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead, mostly sunny, 34. I'm Paul Jurgens. The state lawmakers in the race for Fargo mayor. Shannon Royce-Jones is an attorney and the daughter of Fargo developer Jim Roars. Royce-Jones told KFGO's Joel Heitkamp she'd bring a wealth of experience to the job.
It's challenging. We're early in the race, and, at the same time I was running for the legislature, there's a lot of things to learn along the way. I anticipate spending the next several months meeting with constituents, learning about their issues, so that I can be the most effective mayor as possible. And, it's the same thing I did when I was in the legislature. You go in with a lot of things to learn. You never know all of the things, and so you never have all of the answers, but it's a process.
Royce-Jones says she thinks the position should be full-time, but she says she'd leave that decision up to voters. Other potential candidates for mayor are Mayor Tim Mahoney and City Commissioners Dave Belcourt and Arlette Preston. Prompted by the carbon monoxide poisoning deaths of 7 family members in Moorhead, Senators Amy Klobuchar and John Hoeven are asking the Consumer Product Safety Commission to step up efforts to educate people about the danger. Klobuchar and Hoeven want to know how the commission is coordinating with states on CO poisoning awareness, if that includes education and outreach in languages other than English, and if the agency needs more resources. The company that plans to develop a nickel mine in northeastern Minnesota has made a major supply deal with Tesla, the electric vehicle maker. Tesla has committed to purchasing 75,000 metric tons of carbon nickel concentrate over 6 years from Talon Metals' planned mine in Tamarack. That is about 50 miles west of Duluth. Talon hopes to open the mine by January 2026, but has not yet started the permitting process. Nickel is a key ingredient of electric vehicle batteries. Tesla would claim more than half of the mine's production of nickel concentrate, which would be further refined before it could be used to make batteries. A leader in the Native American struggle for civil rights and a founder of the American Indian movement has died. Clyde Belcourt was 85. Belcourt died from cancer at his home in Minneapolis today. Belcourt was a co-founder in 1968 of AIM, which began as a local organization in Minneapolis to deal with issues of police brutality and discrimination against Native Americans. The group led a string of major national protests in the 1970s, including the 71-day occupation in 1973 of Wounded Knee, South Dakota, to highlight corruption on the reservation and federal injustices against Native Americans. KFGO Weather Center forecast, 34 are anticipated high this afternoon, and we are at 34. Mostly cloudy overnight. KFGO meteorologist Tom Shemansky has a slight chance of light snow or a little mixed precipitation in his overnight forecast. The low 16 tomorrow, 26, mostly cloudy. Slight chance of light snow toward the evening, and mostly cloudy Thursday near 24. Fargo-Moorhead, 34. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
Got a road warrior report in over that KFGO News. This individual is heading northbound on I-29, south of Fargo, but saying that, hey, you know what, I-29 underneath those the overpasses underneath them, where that shade's collecting, Yeah, so is the ice. So it's getting somewhat sketchy out there. You think about the heat or the warmth that was here. It felt great, but they also had the wind that accompanied, so it kind of blew some of that snow over, and now it's icing up where some of that shade is. So under the overpasses, keep that in mind as we get further into the late afternoon, evening, that it's going to cool down and ice up, unfortunately, out there. Speaking of ice, this was an unprompted conversation that started because listeners were wondering about ice conditions out on our lakes. And you know what? We didn't have all the answers, but somebody that might is Kyle Aguirre. He's part of that Gone Outdoors team, where we tried to have a conversation on Fridays, but I was in Frisco, so we missed him. He joins us right now. Kyle, how are you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Tyler. You didn't happen to see any ice fishermen out there in the Texas waters, did you?
No, I did not. I saw a lot of green and gold, and they were usually they had something that was pretty cold in their hands, but that was a beverage instead of being out on something cold and ice covered. So, but here's what's happening, Kyle. I'm glad you had time, because somebody texted in saying, "Hey, let's get serious here. I want to know where some good ice conditions are," because according to that individual, they're hearing that otter tail in particular wasn't what it should be this time of year, and then that kind of prompted other people to text in. You've been out and about. What have you been seeing out there?
Well, I tell you what, Tyler, this has been one of those years where conditions are varying greatly between lake to lake. And you think about, how fall led into winter and how things began to freeze up, and it started off great, right? We got a good base layer of ice, but then in the meantime, we've gotten an awful lot of snow. And that snow, of course, it was accompanied by a lot of wind. And so depending on the body of water, depending on how it froze, when that snow fell, where that wind hits that lake, you've got anything from, sub 10 inches of ice. I know there was a fishing derby over on Lake Ashtabula on the North Dakota side that was canceled here recently because they had 10 inches and in some places even less than that, and just didn't feel like it was safe. Now, I was out on a lake this past weekend on in that Lake Park Audubon area, and we had 13, 14 inches of ice. And so there's just a lot of variation, and we just, folks got to be really careful. You don't assume that every lake is in perfect condition. We just got to check it, and we got to be careful.
Yeah, and I mentioned that the Lake Ashtabula fishing tournament was canceled, and I hope that's not one of more to come, but I understand because of safety reasons why people would, because of any given body of water, it varies so much, as you were saying. Kyle, I'm curious for those, are there aspects of the landscape they should consider? Obviously go out and check your own depth. We advise you to do that. Don't just take the advice that you've heard or have read. But when you talk about the blowing with that snow, are there any other landscape features surrounding that body that people should take into consideration, saying, you know what, maybe that's the lake I should try out to see how deep it is?
Well, I tell you what, Tyler, that's like the $1 million puzzle, isn't it? Depending on tree cover, depending on kind of elevation changes around the lake, sometimes you get that wind swirling around the lake. Sometimes it's going to blow all that snow onto one shoreline. And, you look at what it is. That snow has got weight to it, right? Yeah. Any of us that have been out shoveling, we know there's a weight to that snow. And if that creates pressure on the ice, it's not just the amount of ice it has, but that pressure will create some flooding in certain areas and some slush. And even if you do have 13, 14 inches of ice, you can run into 6, 8 inches of slush and water out there and get yourself into a real mess pretty quickly.
Yeah. That's why, again, go out there and measure it on your own. Have you heard of a lake that's saying, you know what, we're pretty content, or a body of water around here that's saying, we got that early start. Certainly there's been some, I guess, additional snow, that wind, but they're saying, you know what, we're still pretty happy with where we're at right now, or not, because I think it's so easy for people like me to get into the negative side, saying, oh yeah, this lake, to avoid this, but where should people maybe consider going? Or again, it's so variable, as you're saying, that it's tough to say.
Well, and I hesitate saying, Tyler, sure, because changes can happen so quickly, right, from day to day, and even if we have a weather system move in, changes can happen hour to hour, and so it's not anything that we can say hard and fast, this is the place to go. This is not. I would recommend, of course, as you said, to check your own ice. But also, if there are fishing guides in the area, these folks are on the ice every single day for hours at a time, right? And if a lot of them are going to be open to you dropping them an email, go on their website, give them a call. And, what I've always found is that those folks have really up-to-date information. And a lot of times they're willing to say, hey, yeah, this is a lake you want to stay away from, or this is another one that you might want to give a try.
Very good. Message comes into 35270. That's the Ag Consultants of North Dakota Text Club. A lot of lakes around the Valley City area have lots of snow on them, creating lots of slush spots. When you drill a hole, the water comes out 1-2 feet. So, it's water's coming out.
Yeah, water's coming out. It's that pressure on top of the ice, and that's weighting the ice down, and so then you drill a hole. And
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, inches, clearly. But go ahead, Kyle. Once it came out, I'm like, wait a minute, did I say feet? Yeah, inches. Want to correct myself there. Okay, you finish your thoughts.
No, I just when you drill a hole in those areas, even if there's not water and slush there right now, if there's enough of it in the area, it creates that pressure, and you drill a hole. Now that's the pressure relief valve, right? So that water is going to come seeping up on top of the ice in the area you're at. So you always want to be watching for that if you're setting up a portable shack or even a wheelhouse, that you don't find yourself in a great big puddle here within a few minutes.
Yeah, that would be less than ideal. And again, once I said it, it's one of those, wait a minute, did I say this or not? 1 to 2 feet is a lot of water coming out of that hole. It's Tuesday late afternoon. Apparently this coffee's not doing its job anymore, Kyle. Kyle Aguirre, my guest, he's part of that Gone Outdoors. Him and Scott Brewer, you can catch them here on Saturdays. For those that have been able to get out, have you been hearing good reports? Have you yourself had a lot of luck while you've been out?
Boy, I hate to say this, Tyler, but we went out on Sunday, and we were out there, and 3 of us caught 4 bluegills. And so the fish were there, but if you think about our temperature range, late last week we were 25, 30 below. Then on Saturday it was 15 above, and then Sunday was back to 13 below. And all those temperature changes and accompanying pressure changes really had an effect on the fish, and that really slowed down the bite. Some consistent weather here this week should do real good as far as picking things back up.
Well, very good. That's the optimistic note we'll leave it on. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Hey, Friday, you or Scott, you join me again. We'll get everyone ready for that preview of Gone Outdoors. We'll talk a little bit more ice fishing, all right?
That sounds fantastic. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time for us right now. Kyle Aguirre, part of that Gone Outdoors team, him and Scott Brewer. You can catch them again right here on Saturday mornings, KFGO. We'll talk a little bit more about ice conditions. You can send in where you're at and how things are. And again, even if we're giving you these reports, as you just heard, measure on your own. Don't take necessarily everything for granted, because everything's so variable and conditions have been changing so much over the last 2 weeks. It's unfortunate because we thought we were going to have such a perfect setup as so earlier on in the year. And quite frankly, the elements took a little bit of a turn on us. We'll have more of this conversation. And I know that we had people sending in earlier before we started talking about pig's feet, about the gun safety when it comes to the smart guns. I'll get back to those. I don't want to ignore those because I think some of them were very well thought out. This is Afternoons Live. You got a lot in KFGO Fargo.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that? It Takes Two. Doug here with the morning crew this morning. Paul Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
I'm going to go to the iConsultants from North Dakota Tax Club. If you're just joining us earlier in the program, before we digressed into pickled pig's feet and pickled eggs, there was a report in Reuters earlier about smart guns, and I'm just going to quickly recap that you have a couple of companies, one in Boise, Idaho, the other a Kansas company, that is trying to get to that point and utilizing the technology that we have already in a number of devices, but they're taking this on because they're tired of reading the stories of, the tragedies of somebody getting a firearm, a child, for example, and accidentally, shooting themselves or someone else that you've seen too damn often. So they're trying to get it to where it's a smart gun, to where it would recognize fingerprints that you would program in. It would have, the radio technology to where you have to be an X amount of distance from whatever other device, whether that's a ring or a phone, just a variety of things to make it to where the owner is the one that's operating, and it will not discharge unless it's that individual. And I just ask, because if that's the way of which technology is going, why would you be opposed to this? And that's where some of these messages that came in earlier on that I want to get back to. Tyler, would be a great option to be able to order on a carried weapon. So, of course, like your 9mm or pistols. But it should be an option, not a requirement. And the way everything goes when it comes to anything gun safety, I can't imagine it becoming a requirement. I mean, certainly you're going to have people saying, it should be this way, but I don't see it ever passing to be that way. Tyler, smart guns is a good choice. If designed properly, it would make it very safe and possibly prevent theft. A couple of cons would be how easy it can be bypassed or disabled, and it's a reliability factor. Okay, so the reliability factor I can understand if, in fact, for example, if it comes down to like the radio wave thing. I mean, there's times where you try to do things, maybe your key fob, the battery's dying, right? To get into your vehicle, do some of those things, to where the reliability factor on that, I could understand. I hope that because of this trial and error that they're going through and these the process to get there, that they're trying to whittle through some of that. I'm going to get to the phone lines to talk to Noreen. Noreen, I got a couple of minutes for you. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. I happen to think that I should put my 2 cents in about these guns that children get a hold of.
Yeah, you bet.
I think that if they probably put the parents in the jail for the fact that whatever the child has done, the parent who owned that gun or whoever owned that gun should be the person who should be paying for whatever that child did.
Yeah. Well, and
Yes.
yeah.
No,
All right.
I don't care because it's their fault that child had that gun, and that they should pay for it.
Noreen, I appreciate the phone call. I'll let you listen to some of the commentary that comes in from that. We've had a similar conversation along those lines when it comes to the adult being responsible for some of those. I mean, look at what the tragic school shooting happened. Was it north of Detroit? In which you had that young individual get a firearm that his parents bought for him. A Christmas gift, right? Even though all the warning signs were there of, some of the concerns that the school had for his behavior, and that the parents neglected to do anything about it. In fact, they told him, look, just don't get caught while you're trying to look for ammo while you're in school for the gun that we bought you for a Christmas present, an early one. That's the first that I recall recently that actually is trying to hold those parents accountable, because guess what? They tried to flee. The charges were out there. Then they ran from the police. Well, now they're behind bars, I think with $500,000 bail, which they have not met yet. And I think in that situation, absolutely. They knowingly purchased it. They ignored the signs. They were negligent in that. When it comes to the safety aspect and keeping it stored as a gun owner, that is absolutely your responsibility. I think where the questions and the concerns will come in as far as the tragedy that took place of the child, this accident. Do you then press charges and do you arrest the parents? Is that a step too far for some of you, or is that saying nope? Because what Noreen said, they are responsible, they are in charge, they are the adult, absolutely, that they should be held responsible. That's why I'm excited for the potential of what we're discussing here. Because if this technology goes the way of which, and I keep going back to my smartphone here, because if Eric Johnson, my producer, comes over across this room, grabs my phone and tries to access it, look, it's my fingerprint. Can't do it. You can set it to profiles that if you have, this isn't very far off according to these manufacturers, being this year they expect to have this availability on the market. You prevent that tragedy from happening. I would still obviously say, look, you got to put that thing in the damn safe, and you have to have the measures that lock that from anything happening here. But this is that additional step in that safety to prevent this. It just, for me, it makes sense. I think it's the way in which we're going. I have no doubt that you've got not only some of the manufacturers that I discussed, but if you're a gun seller, a dealer, are you not ready to have this as an option for that additional safety aspect? We'll continue the conversation. Also, this whole health insurance mandate. When it comes to your at-home rapid tests, do we even have the tests to do it? We'll talk about that when we come back.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead, still mostly sunny and 34. I'm Paul Juergens. Fargo businesswoman, attorney, and state lawmaker Shannon Royce-Jones is the first candidate to officially announce for mayor. The Republican was first elected to the legislature in 2016 and reelected in 2020. There's been a years-long debate on whether the mayor should be a full-time position. Royce-Jones says it's not her call.
I think it's a full-time job. Whether or not it should be a full-time position, I don't think that's the mayor's job to push that as an issue. It always seems self-serving when someone who's elected is pushing either to be paid more or to have more responsibilities. So I certainly would be open to exploring that option, but I think that's something that should be put on the ballot for the citizens to decide, because ultimately they're the ones who have to pay for it.
Mayor Tim Mahoney is expected to run again. City Commissioner Arlette Preston is eyeing the race along with City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn. The election is June 11th. 34 degrees. This is KFGO News. This is KFGO News. The death of a Tinton, Minnesota firefighter who died from COVID-19 has been classified as a line-of-duty death by the National Fallen Firefighters Association. Tim Catt died December 31st at Sanford Medical Center in Fargo. Firefighters from North Dakota and Minnesota are expected to attend his funeral tomorrow at St. Boniface Catholic Church in Lidgerwood, North Dakota. A judge handling the federal trial for 3 former Minneapolis police officers charged with violating George Floyd's civil rights is urging attorneys to move the case along to reduce chances that the case will be disrupted by COVID-19. Jury selection starts January 20th on allegations that they deprived Floyd of his rights while acting under government authority. At a pretrial hearing, federal judge Paul Magnuson told attorneys he's worried about COVID disrupting those proceedings. A leader in the Native American struggle for civil rights and a founder of the American Indian movement has died. Clyde Belcourt was 85. Belcourt died from cancer at his home in Minneapolis. Belcourt was a co-founder in 1968 of AIM, which began as a local organization in Minneapolis to deal with issues of police brutality and discrimination against Native Americans. No injuries and no cause yet determined for a fire that destroyed an abandoned hotel just west of downtown Duluth. That blaze was fought for over 7 hours into yesterday afternoon. Fire Chief Sean Crise.
Anytime we're fighting in below zero weather or in conditions like this, 35 below wind chills, it's dangerous for us just like anybody else being outside.
Crise says community members offered up firefighters cups of coffee and a place to warm up. He says that makes a real difference and they appreciate it. He adds that they've had a problem with squatters and he understands the weather is brutal, but he urges those who need shelter to seek safer resources that are available in Duluth. South Dakota U.S. Senator Mike Round says he stands by his statement that former President Trump lost the election after Trump called the Republican a jerk for his comments. Round says he was disappointed but not surprised by Trump's attack. The senator says his remarks were not new. He says there was no evidence of widespread fraud and the Republicans should focus on winning elections. Fargo-Moorhead, mostly cloudy tonight. We will have a slight chance of light snow. Nothing on tri-state radar at this point. 16 for the overnight low. Then tomorrow will remain mostly cloudy. A little light snow late in the day toward evening, 26. Thursday, mostly cloudy near 24 degrees. 20 Friday, breezy, a chance of light snow. Fargo-Moorhead, it is mostly sunny and 34. Paul Juergens, News Radio KFGO.
All right, riddle me this. And I don't think my eyes did deceive as I was making the drive back from Frisco this weekend, but when we were passing through Sioux Falls, I peered to the west. And there, lo and behold, I swear I saw a Dave & Buster's building right along the interstate. Which, when we're talking about Dave & Buster's, now, of course, if you're unfamiliar, yeah, you probably have seen the commercials. It's video, it's an arcade, it's an adult arcade. Well, it's not even an adult, but you've got the arcade side, you got the restaurant side, you got the bar in there. I mean, it is a lot of fun if you haven't been. But I've asked why Fargo hasn't gotten one. But if Sioux Falls has one, why? Explain to me, that can't Fargo get one? Is there one? Did you look it up?
Dave & Buster's, 2690 South Lorraine Place, Sioux Falls.
All right, so I wasn't delirious from the 14 hours that we had already been on the road. So Sioux Falls has a Dave & Buster's. Why does Fargo not have one? I thought the limitation, because Maple Grove, everyone said, was the closest one.
Right, and I believe Dave & Buster's is one of the franchises that's population based on where they'll let you build one. But
Sioux Falls isn't a whole heck of a lot bigger than Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo.
Right, yeah, and especially with
now is that it? Because, well, it's Sioux Falls, and Fargo is West Fargo-Moorhead, Dilworth, Horace.
Yeah, but doesn't Sioux Falls count Sioux City a lot of times in their population estimates?
I would imagine. And Maple Grove, I imagine they're counting some of that area around them.
Yeah.
It's not fair, okay? That's all I'm saying.
With the amount of under 30 population that Fargo has, I gotta think Dave & Buster's would be huge.
Mm-hmm. I know where I would get my Dave & Buster's card ready to go right now. I got more messages coming in at 35270. I gotta get you caught up with CBS National News. Tyler, it's not open yet. Well, but you're still getting it. There's light at the end of that tunnel because the building and the signage was there. That is a lot further along than what we have right here in the metro area. I'm just jealous. More messages coming in about it. I will get to those right after this.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek Hansen, Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that from It Takes Two? Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning. Paul Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night, the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Want to remind you, we've been getting some road reports from the road warriors listening to KFGO here that some of those spots are starting to slick up a little bit. It was warm enough to where roads got warm, and you saw the blowing snow because that wind accompanied it, and now when some of those shaded areas starting to ice over. So keep that in mind as we are approaching that 5 o'clock punch-out together here. We're talking about we're driving home from Frisco through Sioux Falls. I saw a new Dave & Buster's building. I'm a little jealous that they're getting it and we're not. Tyler, I agreed. The Dave & Buster's is new to Sioux Falls, if even open yet, which we just found out it's not open yet. Once I heard they were getting one, we were enraged too. It seems so similar. I mean, if we're talking about the population density needed to get a Dave & Buster's, and if Sioux Falls can get it, I think this metro area, if we can call it all one, we should qualify as well. And here is your fellow listeners' recommendation on how we do it. Take your money and open one. Tyler, $1 million opportunity for you. Open a Dave & Buster's in Fargo-Moorhead. Yep, I'm just going to call my small community bank and say, I just need a small little loan from you as a talk show host.
Well, I mean, you've got some connections. Hasn't your grandma been working at the same bank for 50-some years?
Well, she retired at the end of this year, so happy retirement. Charlene Axness up in Leeds. You've earned it.
She probably still has some connections.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm sure they're eager. Oh, Dave & Buster's from a talk show host in Fargo? What could go wrong? What would you put up in case it didn't work? See, now if I stumped you already, if I stumped you, trust me, they're going to have a lot more detailed, intricate questions as to how I would take their money and open up a big, brand new Dave & Buster's. Yeah. Where would you put it? That's a question. 35270. If you are in Fargo, and you have the franchise say, yep, have at her. I mean, do you put it close to let's just pick NDSU? I mean, do you put it along 19th Avenue? Or where? I mean, the mall, there's some availability in the mall. Where would the ideal place be? To heck with the convention center. We're talking Dave & Buster's here.
Yeah, it seems to me like you'd want to build it in one of those growing areas, whether that's South Fargo, West Fargo.
Well, that's what people are saying. Yeah, you got Kingpins and Sweet Shots, which are similar. But are they? Well, we'll find out. But get a hold of some of the people over at Kingpins.
Similar in that they are places where you can go and do more than just drink beer.
Yeah.
But I feel like
you can have a nice
Dave
meal
& Buster's
of wings.
Is more arcade-y.
Yeah, I can go and I can play a Star Wars game followed up by a Mario Kart game, followed by a House of the Dead game.
Right.
I mean, it is the arcade experience that every 35-year-old person wants to experience because the arcades in general aren't really there anymore. I mean, you have in downtown here, the barcade.
Yeah, pixeled.
Yeah, pixeled, which I do enjoy my time, especially because they got some vintage arcade games.
Yeah. And Kingpins, from what I understand, is more bowling games
pool,
with actual apparatus.
I'm not sitting there with a joystick and a couple of buttons that I'm smashing.
Right.
I'm actually throwing a dart. I don't play pool that much.
Yeah, you're a darts guy.
I'm a darts guy, and I'm not stellar at it by any means either. I just prefer to throw a dart over, hit a a pool ball. So yeah, I think even if you have, what's opening up down in South Fargo here, I think there's some differences. Tyler put it in the Kmart parking lot.
Or in the Kmart.
Yeah. Well, I think there's going to be some housing
that,
over there. Yeah, see, that one's already checked off. You already have some developers say, nope, you better not. Tyler off the interstate by Harley Davidson comes in. Okay, so West Fargo on 994. I could get on board with that. There's some open space over there, except for that diversion that's already there might cause a little hitch in that giddy up.
That kind of gets close real fast to that area.
I want to leave a Bison football game at that Fargo Dome and walk across the street and get into some arcade game. I'll get my wings. I'll have a beverage. They don't allow that in the Fargo Dome.
I know part of it is
NDSCS.
NDSCS. But what is the former CVS on 19th that it temporarily became the Bison workout room for the football team a few years back when they were remodeling?
CVS. There's a bank on the corner there.
Yeah. That might be close to campus.
See, and then guess what? You jump on your plane and get on out here. You fly on in, you play Dave & Buster's, have your cheeseburger. I'm just saying. If Sioux Falls can have it, Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo can have it too. That's where I'm at right now. Let's get you that last weather update from Too Tall Tom Szymanski. We'll see what's coming up. The drive time news, that's going to lead into Couch Potato Radio with Derek Hansen. NBA tonight on KFGO. Timberwolves, I think they've been on a little bit of a streak. I think they've won 4 or 5 in a row. They're at New Orleans. That's coming up later on, 6:30, I believe, is when either the pregame or tip happens right here on KFGO.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. The hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came